Welcome to Fireside Giants, a featured podcast by Empire Sports Media. I'm your host, Alexander Wilson, and my co-host, Anthony Rivardo. Today, we have a special guest on the line with us, Brandon London. Brandon was signed by the Giants, an undrafted free agent back in 2007, has been working with their media department, and has been kind of involved with them during this very strange time in football season. But how are you doing today, Brandon?
Oh, man, life is good, man. Just did my first Giants fan cave via Zoom today, so that was kind of weird. We're all adjusting to the new times. But doing my work with the New York Giants with the production side of things, we're still trying to get the fans involved as much as possible. So it was cool to do the fan cave via Zoom, and I can't wait to get it gets put together so the fans out there can see it and hopefully send their stuff in to want to do so.
Absolutely. People have some crazy fan caves, might I add. I've seen some pictures of other people's, and they have like the whole setup, full bars, like multiple TVs. I'm not sure how many games you could put on at once if you're watching the Giants, but it's kind of crazy. And I honestly love that the Giants media department's kind of going that route and making it more cohesive with the fans and more active with everybody. So that's super cool. And do you see like that becoming like a more prevalent part of their media plan?
Said he left.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me add him again.
Yeah.
I saw your face. I was like, what happened?
It's a little hard to do, to like share the mic three ways when you can't see each other.
Sorry about that.
Hey,
man. The call dropped. Sorry.
It's all good.
Apologies.
No problem. We could just start off right here. So it's like I asked, how do you see the Giants media kind of incorporating this fan cave aspect into the whole, their plans moving forward and making this more of like a cohesive thing with COVID-19 kind of coming into play and trying to create a new dynamic and atmosphere between the team and the fans?
Well, basically, what we shot today was kind of like a pilot, per se, if you think about
Nice.
it in entertainment terminology, because through Don Sterling and Christine, my other boss for Giants TV, they gave me the go ahead in terms of wanting to do fan caves, because I've already been to Germany, I've been in the UK, I've been all over America filming fan caves. And they want to continue to do content. Everybody wants content, especially if you're New York Giants and you're still having football, and you still want to give fans some sort of access and content. You're going to look for whatever it is you can get shot. So when I came to them with the idea, like, hey, let's still try and shoot a fan cave, but why not do it, via Zoom? They loved it, and they told me if it's something that can be shot, put together, and their editors or our editors can put it together nicely, then it's something they're going to want to do a lot of this year. So today, Bob Sparks was the guy. He's up in Connecticut, and fans have reached out to me through Facebook and fan groups out there for the New York Giants, and we shot it today, man. I don't know what it's going to look like, what it's going to be like, but we've got some really good editors. We shot some good stuff. So now it's, only time will tell, and hopefully we can do as many of these as possible these years. Also with the tailgates too, Zoom tailgates of people. Maybe you're not able to be at the game, but we want to bring, that party or that tailgate to other Giants fans, and just to get the fans involved this year. So hopefully, this is something we can get going as much as possible, so people get ready to send in your cool stuff, no whack stuff.
Absolutely, and it's actually funny because I got like this email from like a Jets thing, and they were like, we're doing a giveaway. And essentially the giveaway is if you have a yard big enough, they are offering to come in, it's kind of ridiculous actually, put pavement over your yard, like pave your yard, and then set up like a whole, like a tailgate experience in your front lawn with like TVs and like seats and couches and all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't know if I want my lawn paved over. Like that's my big concern.
Oh man, that's your bro. I would, if I'm one of the fans, I would absolutely love that. That's kudos. That's dope that the Jets are doing that, because if you think about it, fans not at the game, man, you don't want fans to be or ever feel detached to the team by no means at any point this year, So you want to try and have as much fan engagement. And right now, it's, since we have to social distance and do all that stuff, you want to have it as much as possible, as safe as possible. And right now, you can only do that through Zoom. So, or through Zoom or doing little giveaways and stuff like that. So I mean, I think it's a dope idea. And trust me, you may not want your stuff like paved over or whatever. There's some people out there, man. They live and die their sports team, and they would have it paved over. They just don't care. They paint their bodies with their sports team,
That's
logos
true.
and stuff. So they don't care about their lawn.
Tattoos.
But, for anything for the fans to keep that engagement going. If I'm a team, I'm doing it.
Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned that you've lived in the UK, Germany, a bunch of places, and I know you're a big soccer fan, big Chelsea fan, and Messi. The whole news today with him wanting to leave Barcelona. You think he's going to Chelsea?
Absolutely not. But with us signing Thibaut Warner from the Bundesliga from Leipzig,
Huge.
and I can't pronounce the other guy's name, like Heilig or Heisig or something like that. I always mess up his name. Whoever that second signing was that they got this year.
Is it Ziyech?
Yeah, there we go, right there. Say it again.
Yeah,
say it again.
it's like Ziyech from Ajax.
That may entice him a little bit. It shows that the team wants to put some sort of money into someone. I feel as though if that next signing, if you can't get a Messi, we got to bring in some sort of defender to help shore up that back line, man. It's just they're really out of control, very inconsistent on that.
Can't trust Tomori.
But can't trust, no, not at all, man. And it's like, Rudiger's good, but he's not, he's no star. And as Spilicueta, he's kind of the Williams, those guys, they're kind of, time is happening. You've had your time with the club, Aiden Hazard, Oscar Ramirez, those guys. You see, they're longtime Chelsea guys, but, after you don't win something for a long time or win, Premier League, you got to, it's time to bring in new blood. So that's kind of where we're at right now with the transition. So Frankie Lampard, you want to give him as much possible going forward, because him being a Chelsea legend like that, as a player, you want him to also do the same things as a coach.
Yeah, no, exactly. And with Chelsea, you have Pulisic, who's the golden boy for America, and he's awesome. Love Pulisic. And then, I'll always be mad at Oscar for selling out and going to China in his prime. He did not have to do that. It's kind of interesting to see all these Prem teams, the rising ones. I just saw, Man City sold Sané, so Messi to reunite with Pep is definitely a possibility. I also looked at Inter Milan as another opportunity for him. They have a lot of good players, Lukaku, Martinez, some good guys over there. So, we'll see what happens. I think Messi come to the Prem League, I would be surprised, because it's a lot more physical and he's kind of getting up there in age. Like you mentioned, time is happening. So it's kind of, interesting to see how they're going to do that. And he has a massive, probably clause or some massive amount of money that's going to have to be spent. So that's going to be a problem. Of course, PSG will swing in with their Dubai money and spend like $2 billion on him. But, that's what we have to expect these days. Back to the New York Giants. That's a team that we all want to hear about, and you have the inside scoop. I know you can't delve into anything too specific with scheme and anything, so we're gonna just leave it to the bare minimum, of course, on that end of things. But we want to hear about the progression of a lot of our young rookies. So Anthony, who are you looking at right now, and who do you want Brandon to talk about and just kind of delve into in terms of their development so far?
Yeah, of course, I'm looking at our first round pick, Andrew Thomas. I was a huge fan of that pick, going offensive tackle at number 4. I know a lot of fans wanted Isaiah Simmons, but I think that going offensive tackle and shoring up the blind side for Daniel Jones for the next 10 years was the way to go. And so I love the Andrew Thomas pick, but I'm curious, Brandon, has he been playing at left tackle, right tackle? Have they been moving him around? And what have you seen from him in practice so far?
So far, you've seen him move around a bit. A guy like that, you want to get reps. Any way you can get him reps in that sense. And while you're kind of shuffling, trying to see what pieces will be where and what type of chemistry you can develop with those linemen, you're going to want to get him reps wherever he can. You've seen on video, throughout training camp and stuff with him during drills and stuff, doing the block. I know that drill with Lorenzo Carter where he looks good, and then there was a time where he and what's his name, Marcus Golden, had a nice little rep there. And people are high on this kid, man. The kid, he's hungry, he's humble, very soft spoken, time, you don't want a guy to come in and just, be talking right away. Sometimes you just want, especially during times right now, you want a guy to come in, be humble, and just go get better, because you only have time to get better right now. With new rules and the way that things are with the protocol. So I believe he's doing really well. A lot of guys are really, really, really high on him. And Xavier Mckinney, a lot of people have been talking about around the facility that I'm able to go in there. He had a play at practice, I believe, last week. And Paul Dottino was the one he's one of the guys, he's Giants writers and WFAN sports guy, where he's been raving about Xavier McKinney, especially off the play last week where he read a route in the flat and he jumped in and picked off Colt McCoy. Couldn't keep his feet to go score a pick six. But it's a play you want to see a rookie make. And the biggest part about that, and I interviewed him on this, and I did a Giants Insider and talked with him about this, was the defense was hyped after it. Defense was really energized. And I asked him what that was like, to be that guy who energized the defense. And, as humble, being the humble guy that he is, he answered the question, like, very humbly, and just talked about, like, how not only was it kind of like an expectation because he knows where, how high he was drafted and what he has to offer, but it was also a sense of confidence as well, because that's a guy that's a guy that stepped in and wants to play and wants to start right away, And even if he doesn't start right away, he's a guy that could really, really help and help the defense and special teams right away. So it was good to have. It was good to hear that coming from this guy. And a lot of people are really high on him across the organization.
Yeah, I mean, Xavier McKinney is what we think a big upgrade over Antoine Bethea from last year, because Antoine Bethea was better against the run. That was very, very obvious, watching 2019 stats and his production. McKinney is more of that guy who can be a ball hawk in the secondary, move up, and Anthony knows a lot about him playing in cover one. And like you said, he can jump those flat routes. He can rush the passer. He had a really good rep. I forget who it was against, but he literally tossed an offensive lineman aside. Like he has the strength, the power, and he's so young. What is he, 21 years old? Guy can barely buy an alcoholic beverage like right now, and he's already about to be a starter on the Giants. So it's crazy. Yeah. The steps he's taking, like you said, he's humble. He can energize a defense. He had 7 turnovers last year. That's what I'm excited about. He's a playmaker. He's going to really spark that defense and give them something to be excited about. Now, where do you think he has to develop? What do you think his weakness is?
I mean, obviously coming into a camp, not having a rookie camp, not having mini camp, not having those sort of things, it hurts him in the sense of having to learn the game, his awareness. A rookie, you want to coach a rookie, and you want a rookie to make mistakes right now, and you want him to make good mistakes. So it's one of those things where you're hoping that he makes these mistakes, but it's something that you can clean up as a coaching staff as fast as possible before you get to that first game, and you're going to have rookie mistakes, but at the same time, you want them to happen. You want these things to happen now under the watchful eye of the coaching staff and controlled practices. Then he does when he gets to the game. I mean, we can't expect him to just come in day one and just have everything down. There's going to be certain looks that teams are going to give him that he hasn't seen. There's going to be certain things throughout the game where, back in college, it would be okay to do something, but in an NFL game, it's a different technique, or the timing is different, in the sense of that. So, but look, that kid, man, it's something about that kid, man. It's something about that kid where you're like, we got ourselves one. Dave Gettleman did a great job on that selection and that pick. So I'm anxious to see going forward how the plays he makes for this team, for this organization.
For sure, I agree. I'm super excited about Xavier McKinney, but there's another guy in the secondary that we just drafted who's also getting me pretty excited. Darnay Holmes out of UCLA. I know he's been popping off in practice a little bit. So what do you think of him so far?
You know what, man? That's another guy where you're hoping. That's another rookie where you're hoping that can come in and at least, let's say, be at least a C plus D minus for this team. He's going to have to step in, and he's going to have to play right away. Let's be honest. We don't need to speak on the whole DeAndre Baker thing, but that is what it is. Doesn't look like he's going to be playing football for the New York Giants this year. So, but I look at it in the sense of Darnay Holmes has been getting some good work with Sterling Shepard in that slot. He's been getting some work on the outside as well, and he's getting the opportunity to really develop. Again, he's not McKinney. We didn't draft him as high as we did, but at the same time, it really doesn't matter. If you can play, if you can help an organization, you got to come in and do it right away. I got hit to him because a kid that I used to work out up here in North Jersey has been talking he's been talking up Darnay Holmes so much. He's like, yo, you guys got one. Wait till you see this kid play. Wait till you see him out there. Wait till you see what he can do. They love this kid. And
that's awesome.
And the guy's been making plays, since he's been here.
Absolutely. And so where do you see, this CB2 position going right now? Because, we have Darnay Holmes, and like you mentioned, he's been kind of working with Sterling Shepard in the slot. And, Sam Beal opts out. Now you have Julian Love, Prince Smith, I guess Chris Williamson, a bunch of undrafted guys, and you have Julian Love, which is the guy I'm kind of leaning toward. I know he doesn't have that elite speed, but Joe Judge seems to love him. He's looked good during camp. Do you think he could fill that CB2 spot for the time being?
Julian Love fill that, or Darnay Holmes?
Julian Love.
Man, Jay Love's been getting a lot of work at free safety. From what I've seen, and I mean other Giants beat writers and all can kind of write to it as well. I've seen Jay Love at the free safety position. Jay Love looks good, man. Look, I've been high on Julian Love for quite some time, man. I made a tweet this year, and I said that I believe that he's going to lead the Giants in interceptions this season.
I would love that.
Really feel that. And the kid he's a smart player. He's a tough player. He gets to the ball. He gets around the ball, and you see that jump when it comes to guys in that second year. And he got enough game reps last year, to where he should be comfortable enough to be ready to play some big boy football this year for the New York Giants. So I look at it as one of those things. That secondary, man, it's weird. I wonder what we're going to do in just terms of. I'm glad we got James Bradbury in here. For all that. We feel as though we could be lacking at secondary, like you said, with Beal gone and Baker also gone as well. But it's one of those things where I think our safeties right now, we have athletic safeties with range, like Jabril Peppers, McKinney, Julian Love. So, yeah, while we still have to figure out what we're going to do with these young corners, Corey Valentine, let's see what Grant Haley. Grant Haley's got a lot of experience, playing football. And maybe Grant Haley wants to take that step this year as well. It's an extra year for him to be able to do that. I'm anxious to see how that back end holds up. But I tell you, it's pass rush, man. If you don't have pass rush, you don't have a back end, and hopefully, that pass rush would have improved this year.
Absolutely. And, that's a big thing right now, the pass rush. And Anthony, what do you think about, Marcus Golden and Kyler Fackrell? Do you think they'll be the cemented starters, or do you think Lorenzo Carter and Ocean Ximenez can kind of sneak in there and get some starting reps?
I think you'll have. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm a big fan of Fackrell. I liked Marcus Golden last year too, so I think that, in my opinion, I'd like to see them as the starters and then rotate Lorenzo Carter and Ocean Ximenez in, make them really just be pure pass rushers and see what they can do in that role.
Yeah,
now,
that sounds pretty good.
I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good.
It's all by committee right now, man. I think someone has to come out. Marcus Golden obviously is the number one in that group, but I would like to see someone separate themselves and be like a number one pass rusher in terms of for our division. You know, we need a star pass rusher, I feel like, for this team to help this defense out and Coach Graham's defense. And you're hoping that, you know, with Marcus Golden at 10 sacks last year, you're hoping that he can bump that up, you know, 2 to 3 extra, and then you have a guy in there that can have two guys double-digit sacks would be perfect this year. But we shall see.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing with the Giants right now. It seems like they're trying to buy sacks, right? Because Marcus Golden had a ton of reps last year, which led to some pretty lofty numbers. And then you have a guy like Kyler Fackrell, who had 10.5 sacks in 2018, but then got replaced by Za'Darius and Preston Smith. So it's like, okay, what do you really have there? And it seems like they're just kind of buy these sack numbers. And they're talking about Leonard Williams, right? And that's the guy everyone's like, okay, if he can really show up this year, he's worthy of a multi-year deal. I saw that rep against Andrew Thomas. I don't know if you did, but he almost broke Andrew Thomas's back in half. He was pushing him back so hard. But it's nice to see that Leonard Williams is coming in here. He's, you know, that little minor hamstring injury he had coming into camp is gone. He's fully healthy. And it seems like they're working on his fundamentals to turn those pressures into sacks. So, like, what have you seen so far in camp in terms of Leonard Williams kind of taking that step forward and becoming that elite pass rusher that we really need him to be?
Oh, man, honestly, bro, I don't even watch the D-line that much, man. Like, I'm so hooked on the receivers and the DBs when I watch, you know, because we watch from the patio, and all. You know, I'm not on the sidelines of practice like I normally am. So when I watch, man, I honestly watch, like, you know, Daniel Jones and the receivers, and then, you know, what DB made a play, you know, on the ball and stuff, because it's hard to judge a D lineman during training camp, you know, in the sense of you don't know if it's a sack or not, because one, you gotta blow the whistle dead, or
right.
You know something could have been a sack, but they let the play go so the back end and the receivers and DBs can get to work, and you know it could have been a spectacular catch and you weren't even paying attention to the sack part of it, you know, and that's me. I leave all that up to Paul Detinos and those guys, and you know the Jordans and Art Stapleton and all of them. But you know, honestly, like you said, you know, Leonard Williams, man, big cat. He's the money guy. You're the money guy in the unit, so you're the one that's got to produce. And when you think of the interior defensive lineman like him, we may not be thinking we may not get Aaron Donald type production. Aaron Donald is, I mean, come on now, that guy's an anomaly, you know. But in terms of if we can measure, if you can get value out of him through pressures and stopping runs and clogging things up, then I feel like that's a contract that you're going to need, because you're going to want these linebackers, Blake Martinez and these guys, to run free and get to the ball. And you want some sort of pressure, interior pressure on a quarterback. So hopefully you get that value out of him, and that'll be a huge win for the Giants defense.
A huge win. And, you know, being that you're looking at the wide receivers, this is probably a good time to ask you about some wide receivers. The back end, you know, of the roster right now is filled with undrafted guys: Benjamin Victor, Austin Mack, Derek Dillon. They just brought in CJ Board. What are you seeing from those guys? What guys are really standing out to you? And how is Corey Coleman looking? Because I've heard he's looked pretty good.
Mack has really stood out to me. David Stills is standing out and making plays a lot. What's the guy number 80? I forget his name.
Victor Cruz?
No.
He's back for round 2.
Yeah, he's been making some plays in practice as well. You don't have the names in the back of the jerseys now, so it's kind of hard sometimes. It's hard trying to memorize 80-something guys' names. 80s look good. Steels look good. I've seen some good stuff out of Mack. Corey Coleman looks smooth. I really want you to see how much he gets involved and what type of niche he can carve or role he can carve for himself in this offense. Obviously, you got, you know, with Darius Slayton being out right now, then he gets bumped up to that top 3 for sure to get some reps with Daniel Jones. You know, right now it's all about trying to, whoever you are, whatever receiver you are, trying to get some sort of repertoire with Daniel Jones. Because a season like that, obviously receivers go down during the season, but during a season like this, you're going to see some guys nicked up, and I think you're going to see some guys taken off the practice squad that has to get bumped up. And I think you're going to see a larger number than that than you do normally in a season. So if you're a guy right now that has the opportunity to get a one rep with Daniel Jones, and he throws you anything, whether it's a hitch, a jailbreak screen, anything, you better come down with it. Because who knows, week 8, week 13, week 15, you can get a call to be bumped up. And just like that, a star could be born. You know, 1 or 2 throws, and your name can be well known in Giants football, you know, amongst Giants football. So you see these guys, the Max, and these young guys and the Steels, you see them putting in this work. And you love seeing glimpses, and you love seeing them make plays in practice, because it's like, okay, we may not need you necessarily day one, but be on standby, be ready, have your confidence down, not only in your ability, but your playbook as well. So when you get on the field, you can come in and make a play right away.
Right. And so I know you said you don't really watch the offensive and defensive line too much, since you're more focused on the wide receivers and the defensive backs. But if you could give some insight at the center position, who's been running with the starters there? I've seen some of Nick Gates. I know Shane Lemieux has been practicing there too. So if you could give some insight into that, that would be great.
I mean, I've seen Nick Gates in the majority of the reps that I have watched practice. Shane, like you said, Shane Lemieux is getting rotated in there. But at the same time, like Joe Judge said, everyone's got to work for their position right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think, other than Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, and Sterling Shepard, we shouldn't be worried about. I don't think we worry about, who's the starter right now. I think we worry about who's the starter the day before we play the Pittsburgh Steelers, yes. But it's about who, when they're getting their reps, whether it be a 1 rep or a 2 rep. Because if if you're not a designated starter right now, you're going to be taking both to prove it and show what you can to these coaches. So it's a situation where if you get a rep, you're putting something on tape to where coaches can see what they're going to get out of you. Because then again, offensive line, how many are we going to carry? How many are we going to need throughout the year? Right now, it's about guys getting quality reps to show that, hey, I can be a New York Giant, whether it be day 1 of the season, or I can be ready, and when you call my name, to step up on week 13 of the season. So with those 2 guys, I believe those 2 guys, switching out reps, you're still hiking it to Daniel Jones in a sense. You're still getting Daniel Jones reps, but being able to play with different combinations of offensive linemen, and whether it's Will Hernandez next to you or Zeitler next to you, just getting that continuity with different guys. So that's a battle that's interesting, and I feel as though Nick Gates will probably hit that out.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I mean, Nick Gates, he's been working all offseason with Derek Carr in Vegas. Pulley's always been about average, and there's a reason Jalapeno was starting over him last year, So now we have to look forward and say Nick Gates was undrafted. And what is it with Dave Gettleman and finding undrafted offensive linemen that are just so good? Nick Gates, he had Andrew Norwell a few years ago. The Giants almost broke the bank for. So it's insane to see how great of an evaluator at the offensive line position he really is. And this year, I loved the strategy they took just in the draft in general. They decided that they weren't going to package these 7th rounders and move up in the draft a few spots. They said, we want to take every single one of our picks, because you never know, like you said, you never know at what point a player's going to come in due to an injury or anything like that. And suddenly you have a guy that nobody knew before that's a star in the making. You don't want to pass up on an actual player that has potential just to move up 1 or 2 slots with the 7th round pick. So, that leads me to my question in that, what do you see, just the overall census is like, the difference between last year's regimen to this year so far? I know the intensity is probably a big portion of that, but what is a few things that have just stood out to you in terms of Joe Judge taking over and the feel around the organization?
Oh, well, you don't have that much contact with Coach Judge, I think because everything is through Zoom calls and all, and if you're doing an interview, it'll be Bob Papa, or he'll be with Carl Banks and such, and you don't have that many people in the room, because of COVID. So it's kind of obviously as a head coach, you still have the respect of the room, and especially when it comes to Giants TV production, because we're here to make the team look good in that sense. Watching the practices that I've seen, you've seen him blow the whistle, stop a drill, and, call the team up and, say whatever it is he has to say. That's just a head coach in general, that you're a motivator, you're, especially as a head coach, you're a manager at that point where you're managing coaches and a bunch of personalities in terms of players, on the team. But just hearing the things from the players is what, fans, what you hear from the players and what you can dissect as, a player being genuine and being, when talking about a coach and their style or whether they agree with it or don't agree with it. I think you're seeing guys buying in, and at this point, it's like you have to. There's no point of trying to fight, Coach Judge doesn't have our name on the back of our jersey or we, we're in full pads and we hit today. Like, if you're a player, it's training camp. You understand what this is. You understand what you're getting yourself into, and it's football. All the other stuff, honestly, man, it's for the fans that, the little spectacles here and there, the smoke and mirrors. That stuff's for the fans, and it's you see it, you hear it. But when you hear, some fans get so wrapped up around it, it's like, hey, buddy, like, what locker room have you ever been in? Like,
don't even get me started.
Like, calm down. Like, this is basic stuff. Like, wow, these guys are practicing hard, or they're going in shells today. They don't need to practice hard. These are professional athletes, and it is what it is. But at the end of the day, whether you're looked at as a coach who coaches too loosely, or you're looked at as a coach who coaches too hard, it all comes down to W's and L's.
Yep.
W's and L's. So
you're 100%
everyone, you
right.
can see guys, everyone like, I love the way Coach Joe Judge talks, and I love this. And people were saying the same thing about McAdoo. They were saying the same thing about Shermer. Now, Coach Judge, you got the microphone. He's got the microphone as the current head coach for the New York Football Giants. And he's a guy that, from what I've seen so far, you definitely root for, and you want him to do well. So we're gonna see, man. So we've had some coaches run up in this organization. We've had some coaches come in, win Super Bowls, and be some greats here. So you're hoping that he can be another one of that list, on that list of greats that have been through this organization.
For sure. And speaking of greats, I know wins and losses are what really count, but you were on the Giants roster a little while ago. Is Joe Judge's practices giving you Tom Coughlin vibes?
Well, when I got TC, I got him at the end of hard-nosed TC. I remember 1 year, I remember that my rookie year, my rookie year, we were in the little hockey pads, the shells as we call them. And shells are shorter than helmet pads, but these little hockey pads are called shells as well sometimes. And I'm like, man, I said something, and I was like, man, this practice, NFL practices, I thought they were going to be harder, blah, blah, blah. And David Tyree was like, man, you got the new Tom Coughlin, young blood. He was never like that, but, at the same time, there goes a hard-nosed coach that adapted to his players, that adapted to his team, and you saw the result of that was wins, losses, and the S, and the SB, a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? So, at the end of the day, you can have a philosophy as a coach, but this game is ever evolving. This game is ever so changing. So you as a coach have to be able to adapt not only to the actual game itself and the X's and O's, but to your chess pieces as well. Your bishop is your bishop, your pawn is your pawn, but your pawn runs 4-3. Bishop is, something different. You gotta know these players to be able to put them in the right situation to let them athletically do what they do. You know what I'm saying? And if you have to push the tempo a little bit to get more out of the guy, you got to do it. But if you got to scale back at the same time, you got to do that as well. And I think Joe Judge will be a great character in terms of being able to read that. Will have great character in terms of reading what he wants to get from players and also being able to read the room.
Absolutely. Dating back to your 2007 rookie season, what is the most memorable moment from that year that you had? I know the Super Bowl season, you got a ring out of it. I'm sure you keep it nice and safe. What is the one memory that you have dating back, that you're just like, this is the best moment?
Oh man, this podcast rated PG-13.
No, you can say whatever you want.
That was a wild year that year. Joking around. I think the most craziest memory was the Green Bay game in the playoffs when Corey Webster, I believe it was in the fourth quarter, he jumped that route and Donald Driver on the sideline had that interception. And it's because it was like, it's no secret. I always tell people I was on the practice squad the entire year that year, and I had to be the other team's best receiver. So if we're playing the Cowboys, I had to be T.O. If we're playing
that's tough.
the Patriots, I had to be Randy Moss that year. And when we played the Packers, I had to be Donald Driver. So that game, it's like a post corner. It was like a post corner that he ran. If the corner is low, you take the angle out of the corner high. If the corners or the DB is high and over the top, you flatten it off. And we ran it on Tuesday. We ran it on Tuesday in practice. I made the catch on Corey, and he was right there, and he was like, they knew it. The defense knew because that's you're reading packages, you're reading plays and routes, and he knew from where I was lined up and stuff, And I remember he slapped his hands and was like, he cursed and was like, oh, I gotta have that. So then that game, he went, jumped it, and picked it that game because they had ran it earlier, but they didn't throw it, I think. And then they ran it in Hey, hold on real quick, fellas. Hold on, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah. So then he went and he picked it, and I remember seeing them. I believe the next day because we were getting I don't know if we had practice, but it was like Super Bowl week. I believe started the next day or whatever. We had meetings, and he told me thank you, for getting defense ready. And he was like, B. Leonard, I appreciate you getting us ready and putting in that work. And, and that made me feel good at that time because, it made me feel like I did my job in a sense. Yeah, I couldn't play on Sundays, but I was for damn sure going to get them boys ready for T.O., Randy Moss, Joey Galloway, whoever it is that we played. I was going to get these guys ready. And, that moment right there. And I still see Webby all the time. I'm always in constant contact, in contact with him when I see him, and it's all love. It's all love from those guys.
Absolutely. I mean, it must be insane to have memories like that, and that's like you said, it's so important to be trying to be Randy Moss, be T.O., be Donald Driver, and helping the defense prepare. And I really hope that Joe Judge is bringing that same mentality in terms of being like super prepared for each and every matchup, because that really is what makes a Super Bowl team. The plays that the other team is going to be running. What they like to favor, what they like to do, and changing your game style and scheme to really fit your opposing matchups. And that's kind of what he said so far with players like Xavier McKinney, Jabril Peppers. So I'm kind of excited to see how they maximize those two guys, and really most of the defense, just to try and, I guess, bring the most out of them and I guess play them in different positions so that we can beat some of those better teams like the Cowboys, Eagles, and even Washington football team now. They're rising, got Terry McLaurin. So it's going to be tough to stop some of these NFC East teams.
Yeah, I see. I think we're going to have a lot more respectable division this year than what we normally had. I think Dallas is pretty strong. The Eagles, are the Eagles right now. They're one of the hot teams in the division. I think Washington's going to be a lot better. But I'm just right now, man. I'm just glad we got football.
Hello, windy Jersey City.
No, I'm in Lodi. Hello.
Yo, you there?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. We got you.
Yeah. Go. Did you ask another question or?
Yeah. So I guess do you see this defense with Patrick Graham, changing around and adapting to new, I guess, styles of offense on a weekly basis, just kind of adapting and playing kind of a 3-4 base, 4-3 base, changing things up. I know. Continue. You got it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I started to jump in. I get, this is what training camp is for, man. You get to see what you have, you get to see what players you can put in whatever situations, because each team's offensive set is going to be different. And you might need a guy, you might run more of a dime, base type personnel one week and then have a nickel or run more 4-3 the next week. So right now you're just trying to see, with especially so many newcomers in on this defense, and with these old pieces, you're trying to see where you can mix and match guys and where you can utilize them and get the best out of their skill set.
Absolutely. And, just Anthony, I'm going to give you the last question so we can let Brandon get back to Madden 21 and kick it some ass.
For sure. Actually, speaking of Madden 21, interested in making a franchise league? I think we're going to be trying to run that with the podcast. We'd love to have you involved with that in some way at some point.
Yeah, I'll be on that. I'll definitely be on that. We get to draft players. I'll definitely be on that.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've been trying to catch up. I remember playing with Vic on the cover and then Peyton Hillis. And man, I miss those old Maddens, those old school Maddens. And now you just run the ball nonstop. Like I play with the Giants and they're really bad, obviously. And I just run the ball nonstop with Saquon, and he just is a monster. You can't beat the running game in 20, but I haven't played 21 yet. Is there any kind of OP situations going on there?
Man, you got to play. The gameplay is a little bit better. It's a little bit looser. The animation's a little bit better. I'm hoping on the new Xbox and PS5 that the gameplay, they take a step in the gameplay, But I mean, it's a good game, man. Right now I'm 2-1 with the Giants. So
nice.
Get back on that a little bit later, but thank you guys for having me on, man. Like I really appreciate it, and hit me up anytime, and definitely want to be a part of that Madden League.
Absolutely, man. We really appreciate you having taking the time to be on Fireside Giants and giving some fans a little bit more insight into the team and what to expect in 2020. And we hope to be playing Madden with you soon. I'm going to beat you with the Cowboys. I'm joking. You're probably going to smack me with the Giants, but we'll have some fun, man. I really appreciate it, and having an awesome rest of your day.
Cool, man. Take it easy, fellas.
Peace.